Wind howled. Snow stung Maya's face. She clung to the icy cliff. One wrong move meant a long fall. Her fingers ached, numb with cold. But the village needed the Skyfire Stone. She had to reach it. A gust almost ripped her off the mountain. Maya dug her crampons in harder. Fear twisted her gut. But she was doing this for her people, for her little brother, too sick to even play.
Need a hand, sweetheart?
A voice called from above. Maya looked up. A figure rappelled down towards her. He had dark, laughing eyes and a cocky grin. This must be Kael, the rogue who'd offered to help.
Don't you trust yourself?
Kael asked, landing lightly beside her, his movements as fluid as a cat's. His eyes sparkled with a mix of mischief and curiosity. He had a grappling hook on his belt and a sword strapped to his back, looking every bit the rogue adventurer he was known to be. He looked more ready to pickpocket someone than climb a mountain, his demeanor exuding a casual confidence that was hard to ignore.
I don't trust anyone,
Maya said, her voice tight. Especially someone like Kael. He had a reputation, a dangerous one. Stories of his exploits were whispered in the darkest corners of the village, but he was the only one who'd answered the villagers' call for help, the only one brave or foolish enough to take on the challenge.
Oh, come on now, where's the fun in that? He teased, his smile widening as he tried to lighten the mood.
He hooked his rope to a jutting rock, his movements precise and practiced, showing his experience in such treacherous terrains.
Let's just get this over with. This wind is messing up my hair. He grumbled, though there was a hint of amusement in his voice.
Maya ignored him and kept climbing, her focus unwavering despite the challenges they faced. She didn't need his jokes. She needed to stay focused, to keep her mind on the task at hand. She needed to get to the top, no matter what it took. The fate of her village rested on her shoulders, a weight she felt with every step she took, and maybe, just maybe, she needed Kael's help more than she wanted to admit. His skills, his experience, and even his unpredictable nature might be exactly what they needed to succeed. They climbed in tense silence, each step a test of their resolve and endurance. The only sounds were the wind, the clinking of their gear, and their ragged breathing echoing in the vast emptiness around them. Kael moved with surprising grace for someone who looked like he belonged in a tavern brawl, his movements fluid and precise. He checked her ropes, offered advice on handholds, and ensured she was safe at every step.
You're not so bad for a village girl.
Maya shot him a glare, her eyes burning with defiance.
And you're not as charming as you think you are,
she retorted. But there was a hint of a smile on her lips, betraying her amusement. Maybe he wasn't all bad. Maybe there was more to him than met the eye.
Ouch, you wound me, right here.
He tapped his chest, right where his heart should be. A dramatic gesture that made her roll her eyes. But Maya had a feeling Kael's heart was well hidden, buried under layers of bravado and mystery, if he even had one. She wasn't entirely convinced. They finally reached the cave where the Skyfire Stone was said to be hidden. The entrance was narrow, almost invisible.
I feel a tremor of fear and anticipation. This is it.
The cave glowed with an eerie blue light. In the center, on a pedestal of ice, rested the Skyfire Stone. It pulsed with a light that seemed to resonate deep in Maya's bones. But as soon as Kael touched the stone, the cave shuddered. A deafening crack echoed around them. Rocks rained down from the ceiling.
Avalanche!
Kael yelled, shoving Maya out of the way. The world turned upside down. The ground beneath them shook violently, sending debris flying in all directions. Maya was thrown against the cave wall with a force that knocked the breath out of her lungs. She heard Kael cry out, his voice filled with terror and pain. Then everything went dark as she lost consciousness. When she came to, her head throbbed and her ears rang. The world was a blur of white and grey. She was half buried in snow and ice, the cold seeping into her bones. Kael lay nearby, his leg pinned under a boulder. He was struggling to free himself, but the weight was too much. His face was contorted in pain, every movement causing him agony.
Kael! Maya's voice was filled with desperation as she called out to him.
Maya scrambled over to him, fear gripping her heart. He couldn't die. Not after helping her. She had to save him.
Don't worry about me. Get the stone. Kael's voice was weak but determined. Get it back to the village. He knew the importance of their mission.
Ignoring the throbbing in her head, Maya dug through the rubble with renewed determination. Her fingers closed around the smooth, warm surface of the Skyfire Stone. Relief washed over her. She had it. The mission wasn't a failure. She had it, and they were alive. Against all odds, they had survived the cave-in. With Kael leaning heavily on her, they limped out of the collapsing cave and started the long journey back down the mountain. Each step was a struggle, but they pressed on. The wind seemed less harsh now, the snow less biting. It was as if the mountain itself was acknowledging their victory. They had faced death together, and they had survived. Their bond was now unbreakable. A fragile bond had formed, forged in ice and danger. It was a bond that would see them through many more challenges. They had a long way to go, but for the first time, Maya dared to hope. The future seemed a little brighter.